Sometimes the smallest act of kindness plants the biggest seed. He thought he was just helping a poor girl by buying her school books. But life came full circle in the most unexpected way, when years later, that same girl placed a paycheck in his hands with her signature on it. On a crisp autumn morning in New York, where the streets were alive with the usual rush of students hurrying to classes, workers sipping coffee as they made their way to offices, and the hum of car horns. Filling the air, a young man named Daniel stood outside a bookstore. He wasn't rich, not even close. Daniel was in his late 20s, working as a cashier at a local diner, living paycheck to paycheck, and trying to balance his own unfinished dreams of college with the daily grind of survival. He often came to the bookstore just to browse through the shelves, to feel close to the world of knowledge he once wanted to be part of but couldn't afford. On that particular morning, as he leaned against the store's window, he noticed a young girl, maybe 12 or 13 years old, staring intently at a pile of used textbooks stacked on a wooden cart near the entrance. Her clothes were worn, her shoes scuffed, and her small fingers clutched a few crumpled bills that clearly weren't enough to buy even one of the books. She looked at the prices, counted her money again, and then lowered her head in defeat. Something about her stirred Daniel. He knew that look, the look of someone who desperately wanted something but was painfully aware of their limitations. He approached slowly and asked if she needed help. The girl, startled, looked up with wide brown eyes and shook her head nervously. "I don't have enough," she whispered. I need these books for school, but it's okay, I'll manage." Her voice carried both pride and sadness. Daniel knelt down beside her and asked her name. "Sofia," she replied, still hesitant, as though afraid of being judged. Without another word, Daniel walked into the store, picked out the books she had been eyeing, and carried them to the counter. Sofia tried to stop him, insisting she couldn't accept charity, but he smiled gently and said, "This isn't charity. This is an investment. Someday, you'll do something great, and maybe you'll remember this moment." Sofia's eyes filled with tears as he handed her the books. For her, those books were not just pages and ink. They were hope, a future, a way out of the cycle of poverty that seemed to define her family's life. She wanted to thank him properly, but Daniel just waved, gave her a small smile, and disappeared into the crowd, never expecting to see her again. He didn't know that what he had done that day had set into motion a story far bigger than he could imagine, a story that would one day come back to him in ways he could never have dreamed of. Life went on. For Daniel, things didn't get easier. His small apartment remained cramped, his diner shifts long and exhausting. He often wondered if his life would ever change, if he would ever have a chance to step out of the shadows of mediocrity. But he never regretted helping Sofia that day. Sometimes, when he saw children pass by with their backpacks, he thought of her and hoped she was doing well. Meanwhile, Sofia's journey was anything but easy. Born into a family where her father worked odd construction jobs and her mother cleaned houses, Sofia had grown up knowing the meaning of sacrifice. Her parents couldn't afford new clothes or expensive gadgets or even a proper meal some nights, but they always told her one thing: education is your way out. The books Daniel had bought were not just tools for her studies. They became symbols of her determination. Every night, under the dim light of a flickering bulb in their small apartment, Sofia studied relentlessly. Math problems scribbled on old notebooks, essays written on recycled sheets, and science projects crafted from scraps. She poured her heart into it all. Teachers noticed her brilliance. Though she was quiet, she was sharp, her questions profound, her answers precise. By high school, she had become the top student in her class, earning scholarships, recognition, and opportunities that few from her background ever received. Still, she never forgot that moment at the bookstore. The stranger who had given Her the very first push. She didn't know his name, didn't know where he was, but she carried his kindness like a talisman, a reminder that the world still held goodness. For Daniel, years blurred together. He worked, he saved little, he dreamed less and less. He dated a few times, but the weight of responsibilities always kept him from building something lasting. He watched others climb ladders of success while he remained at the same rung. Yet every so often the memory of Sofia's grateful eyes would flicker in his mind, reminding him that even if his own life felt stagnant, he had made a difference in someone else's. Sofia's hard work bore fruit. She earned a full scholarship to Columbia University, majoring in finance. Stepping into the grand campus felt like stepping into another world, one she had always dreamed of but never believed was truly possible. The lectures, the libraries, the energy of ambition in the air, it fueled her even more. But Sofia didn't just want to study. She wanted to rise, to prove that her background didn't define her ceiling. She interned at financial firms, spent sleepless nights learning not just from textbooks but from mentors, networking events, and real-world experiences. While many of her peers had parents who guided them through professional pathways, Sofia navigated everything on her own, armed only with resilience and memory of where she came from. After graduation, she landed a job at a major investment firm, quickly standing out for her analytical skills and leadership qualities. Within years, promotions followed. By the time she was 30, she was being recognized as one of the most promising young executives in the financial industry. Her story even appeared in magazines, highlighting her journey from poverty to corporate success. But deep inside, she still remembered the nameless stranger who had given her books when she needed them most. Meanwhile, Daniel, now in his 40s, was still working at the diner. His hair had begun to gray, his shoulders a little stooped from long hours on his feet. He had no major savings, no career leaps, but he had a good heart and a quiet dignity about him. He had stopped expecting miracles in his own life, yet fate was preparing to surprise him in ways he couldn't fathom. One chilly December morning, Daniel walked into the diner for his usual shift when his manager called him aside. "Daniel, there's someone here to see you," he said, pointing toward a woman sitting at a corner table. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her hair neatly tied back, and her aura carried the confidence of someone who had carved her way into the world. Daniel didn't recognize her at first, but when she stood and smiled, her eyes glistening, a flicker of memory stirred. "You don't remember me, do you?" she asked softly. He shook his head, embarrassed. She reached into her bag, pulled out an old, worn-out textbook and placed it on the table. "You bought this for me, outside a bookstore. My name is Sofia." Time seemed to stop for Daniel. His throat tightened, his eyes filled with tears, and suddenly the years of monotony, the countless shifts, the weight of a life unfulfilled, all of it seemed lighter because here was proof that his small act had mattered. Sofia took his hands and said, "I've been searching for you for years. I owe my career, my education, my entire journey to that moment. You didn't just give me books, Daniel. You gave me a future." She offered him a position at her company, not out of pity, but because she truly believed his integrity and life experience could add value. A few weeks later, Daniel walked into a gleaming high-rise building, not as a customer, not as a worker serving tables, but as an employee. This story touched your heart, remember? One small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. Daniel never imagined that buying a book for a poor girl would one day bring his own life full circle. What you do today could become someone else's tomorrow. Share this story with your friends and family so more people remember the power of kindness. Subscribe to Kindness Vibes for more true, emotional, life-changing stories. And if you believe kindness always comes back, leave A in the comments. Oh ye. When payday arrived, he held his paycheck, and his eyes widened as he saw the signature at the bottom. Sofia Alvarez, CEO. His heart swelled. It wasn't about the money, It was about the circle of life, about kindness coming back when you least expect it. As Daniel left the building that day, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I didn't fail at life after all. Maybe this was always my purpose." And Sofia, watching him leave with a smile, knew one thing with certainty. Sometimes the world changes because someone buys a child a book.